Hey, so I did a review on Facebook of the movie Acrimony. And if you have not seen the movie yet, I suggest you not watch this review. If you're not interested in watching the movie, but you want to know what it's about, tune in. Now, when I did my live review on Facebook of the movie, a lot of people were coming to me because my view of the movie wasn't nothing like their view of the movie. So, I'm going to start by saying this. I'm not a fan of Tyler Perry. I like some of his movies. So, I watched the movie because it was filmed in Pittsburgh. And I'm a native of Pittsburgh, so I love to support any movie that was filmed in Pittsburgh. So, with that being said, we're going to start out with me talking about the movie. I'm going to mention some of my experiences and why people just don't, I don't agree with everybody I just don't agree with everybody. So we're going to start like this. Taraji plays a character called Melinda. And then the other guy, I don't know who he is. He plays her husband, Robert. So the movie starts off as Melinda and Robert in court. And the judge sentencing Melinda to go to counseling. So then Melinda starts to go to counseling. He sentenced her to go to counseling because she's stalking him and she's doing all this whole other stuff that the judge just said. So then it goes on to her sitting on the couch and the lady asking her, so what's going on? Why are you here? So she begins to tell the story about how she met her husband. And she's like saying this guy was a slick talker. He was this, he was that. Like, at the beginning of the movie, Melinda makes you hate her husband. She makes you really hate men, period. So, me and my best friends at the movie, and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe him. Why he do that to her? Blah, blah, blah. So, before we doing all of that, she bumps into him. How she meets him is she bumps into him. He goes and they swap papers because when they bumped into each other, they dropped their papers. So, they swap papers. And when they swap papers, he was just like, I read your thesis and you're not going to get a good grade in that class. I got a good grade in that class. Let me help you out. So she was like, okay. So they start studying with each other and they fall for one another. Now, Melinda, I think she's there for writing or something. And he's there because he is a mechanical engineer, I believe. So he's from like the other side of the tracks, basically. He's like poor. And then Melinda is from, she's middle class rich. So her sisters come to the school and are like, they tell her that her mom passed away. Now Melinda inherits $350,000 and she also inherits the house. She's the youngest of three sisters. So she got like this evil streak, like she's an evil person, but she's also nice. So she's like a Sour Patch. So she gets with the guy, he consoles her. They get together and whatever, and they start talking about kids. He starts showing her, like, I'm going to live there. Like, they're walking down the street. He's like, I'm going to live there. That's where I want to live. When I make this money, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a boat. I'm going to get this type of car. Like, he's just telling her what he wants when he gets his money because he believes that he's really about to invent a battery that recharges itself and that he's going to get the money for it. And he wants to let her know, like, this is what it is. So Melinda's like, okay, and she's feeling him. She's like, oh my gosh. So she was like, should I tell him whether or not I got this money or not? So she decides to go ahead and tell him. So they're back at his apartment and they're talking. And I left a couple parts out because I don't want to ruin the movie for everybody. So they go back to the he's not even in an apartment. He's in a trailer. He lives in a trailer. So they go back to his trailer and they're in a bed talking. And they're like saying, oh, I want this many kids. And we're going to have kids at this age so my body can snap back and blah, blah, blah. So they're talking about kids. So basically they want kids. They're talking about their future. So after that part, when they're talking about their future, Robert says, oh, how am I going to get to this? I think the guy's name is Pentwood. I'm going to call him Pentwood. He's like, how am I going to get to Pentwood? He's like, I don't want to pull up on no bus. So she was like, oh no. She was like, she was like, you got me, baby. He was like, but what if you're not here? So this fool, which is Melinda, takes it upon herself, and she goes and buy this man a $24,000 car, which takes out of her $350,000 budget. Moving on. So she's calling him on the phone, and she's like, Robert, Robert's not answering. That's not like him. He doesn't call me in 2 days. Blase, blase, blah. So with her saying that, she wound up having this inkling. You know how women are. We have an inkling in our stomach like something's going on. So he finally answers the phone. And she's like, hey, what's going on? He's like, hey, how are you? Kind of like talking to her like she's just his friend. And she's like, I'm good. How are you? And he was like, oh, yeah, everything's good over here. None much, just studying and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, okay. He was like, I want to call you back because I'm studying. And she was like, okay. So he hangs up the phone. And she's like, hold on, something's going on. So she goes and she sits in front of his house. And then she's like, I feel really stupid for sitting here. So she sees a handprint on the window. And she gets mad and she backs up and she rams her Jeep into his little mobile home. And she runs it into his mobile home again and it flips over. So then they run out of the little mobile home from the top because the door's on the top. So they run out the top and they jump down and he helped the girl down and he moves her out the way. And he's like, Melinda, stop. What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, I can't believe you cheating on me. Da-da-da. At this point, they're not married. They're in college. They're doing them. So he's like, I'm sorry, I love you, I'm sorry. So she passes out. She goes to the hospital. While she's in the hospital, the doctor tells her that she's going to have a hysterectomy because she destroyed her ovaries in the accident. So she's in bed, she's crying. Now that's something, they talked about having kids, so she can't have kids now. So he gets back with her. He said, I'm sorry, I promise I'll never cheat on you ever again. Cool. So they're walking. And they sit down, and Robert's like, I lost my scholarship. So she's like, well, how much does it cost? Blase, blase. What are you going to do? And then he's like, I don't know. And so she's like, well, how much is your tuition for 2 years? This fool goes up to the school and pays his tuition for 2 years. So after she pays his tuition for 2 years, he proposes to her. And when he proposed to her, her sisters were like, why are you doing this? He's going to cheat on you. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. He's a this. He's a that. He's poor. He just wants your money. They're like feeding her all this negativity. So she's like, whatever. I don't care what y'all talking about. I love him. So they go and get married. He gets her this fake ring. And he's like, when I make this money, you're going to get a nicer ring. So they married, she's spending money. Then she notices that she's over, so she done spent the whole $350,000 on him plus some. So she's working 2 jobs. This fool, he don't work. The Bible says the man that don't work don't eat, but she's feeding him and she's doing stuff and she's supplying for him. So she takes the paper to him and she hands it to him and she's like, look at this. So he looks at it like the bank statement. He's like, how can this be? And she's like, looking at him like, nigga, you know how this can be. So, he's clueless. He's clueless to the fact that the money's gone. And that she's working this job and whatever. So, after that happens, she comes home. And, no, before they go broke, she comes home. In the house, every light on in the house. Every light is on in the house. So she's like, Robert, do you know that every light on is in the house? The light bill last month was $300. He's like, Melinda, you're not going to believe this. I'm controlling the house by my battery. So his battery is working and it's controlling the whole house. And she was like, well, did you talk to an electrician? Instead of her being happy for him, she was just like, did you talk to an electrician? Because as soon as she said it, the whole house fuse broke. So she wound up having to pay for that. So now they're completely broke. Now she's working 2 jobs. He's not working a job at all. So something happens to where he wants to go to Pentwood, but he needs some money. So what she does is she puts the house up. Did he ask her to? No, she just does it because she loves him. So she puts the house up and for mortgage. Well, how much time I got? I got more 9 minutes. She puts the house up for mortgage. So, life is going on. They done been married for 18 years now. And, you know, you get to that point. I mean, I haven't reached that point. I've been married 9 years. I haven't reached that point to where I'm tired of my husband. But, you know, in some marriages, people reach that point to where they're just over each other. They're tired of supporting each other. They're tired of going through the same old. So they, you know, their life is becoming so mundane. And what happens is she wakes up, she goes, does this. It's the same routine every single day. They're not talking to each other. They're not having sex with one another. It's none of that. So what happens is she's trying to hide all of this from her sister. Everything she does, she tries to hide it from her sisters. That's all she talks about. I hope my sisters don't find out. I don't want my sisters to find out if my sisters find out. So she goes on, and I think I'm trying to think about what happens next. Okay, so her sisters find out because their cousin is the person who works at the bank. So they come in and they're like, Melinda, do you know that the house is in foreclosure? And she's like, yeah. And it was like, she was like, there she go, telling my business. She's like, that's our cousin. So, you know, everybody in the movie theater laughed at that. But then the two sisters, the two older sisters, they're married. So what they do is their husbands own their own companies together. Like the two sisters and their husbands own this company. So they was like, you know, if we put our trucks up, we can be able to give y'all the money to get the house back. There's like, but if we do that, he's going to have to work for us, which is her husband. He ain't got no job. He ain't been working the whole time. The whole 18 years, this man ain't been working. So she looks at him and he says, yeah. He was like, yeah, I'll do it. Because he felt bad. So he's like, yeah, I'll do it. So he's working his butt off when he worked for them. But the gag is, he don't get paid. He don't get paid to work the job. So, what wound up happening is the lady who worked for Pentwood a long time ago, she retired. And there was a new girl that worked for Pentwood. So he finds out that the girl that works for Pentwood is the chick he cheated on Melinda with back in college. So he's like, oh, yeah. So he's thinking like, okay, she works for Pentwood. She's going to get me in there. So he goes and talks to her. And she's like, no, you know, I can't do nothing. I can't get you no meeting with him. None of that. How are you doing? What you got going on in your life? Blah, blah, blah. So he's like, yeah, I done married Melinda. Blah, 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 blah. Da, da, da. And they had this long conversation. So basically, long story short, he tells her like, well, can we have a meeting? And I'll tell you my invention. So she's like, no, I don't want to do that. He's like, no, this is strictly business. So she was like, okay. So he takes her out to dinner or lunch or whatever, and they don't show that scene. So then as he's driving the truck, the sister finds old girl's wallet in the truck. And dude gets a call. Like, this is like the biggest customer that they business get, and he has to try to drive, you know, he has to be there at a certain time or else they'll lose the company. So he's driving down the road, and the girl calls him, and she's like, hey, I got you a meeting with Pentwood. You need to get in here now. Now, I skipped the part. The part I skipped was that Pentwood's, whatchamacallit, called him, security called him and told him that he better not ever show up again, because for 18 years, y'all, he's been writing letters, and he's been doing videos, sending videos. So they're like, basically, he's a stalker. So that's like, you better not come back up here. You better be in 500 feet of this place, blah, blah, blah. So moving back to where I was, she calls him. She's like, Pentway need to see you at 11 o'clock. Are you able to be there? But he has to be at the other place for his brothers at 11:30. What you think he did? He went out that route, went home, got a suit on, got the battery. What else he do? So Melinda comes in the house because her sister done handed her the wallet. She's like, oh, so you still cheating on me? So you still cheating on me with this girl? Blah, blah, blah. She throws the wallet, blah, blah, blah. So dude's like, what are you talking about? I'm not cheating on you. He's like, what is that? So he don't even know that old girl left the wallet. So he didn't even know that old girl done left her wallet in the truck. So he's like, what is that? And she's like, oh, look what it is. So she's putting the wallet all up in his face and stuff. And he's like, okay. And she's like, you cheating on me. I want you to get your stuff out of here. So he gets up, he leaves because he's on the way to. He's like, Pentwood called me. I got to meet with Pentwood. Like I told you, 18 years he's been trying to get with Pentwood. So he's like, Pentwood called me, blah, blah, blah. So Melinda goes following him outside. Long story short, they fight, and he's on his way to Pentwood. He gets to Pentwood's office. Pentwood offers him $800,000 for his invention and the copyrights to his invention. Dude says no. Dude go home, and Melinda's like, "I want a divorce. You left. I want a divorce." So he's like, "Nah, babe. I had a meeting with Pentwood, and he offered me $800,000." So his brothers and them lost a contract with the biggest contract that they had, and they like, "Well, did you take the money?" And Melinda's like, "Did you take the money?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "I'm not taking that money. I'm not giving up on my dream. I done waited this long. I'm not about to take $800,000." And then she explains all the stuff that he done did to them, everything that done happened. So then the sisters is upset. They don't believe him. None of that. So he leaves, and I'm going to skip a couple parts. They wind up getting a divorce, basically. And so they wind up getting a divorce. And he's like, can we please work this out? Can we have another chance? Blase, blase. Her sisters is all in her ear like he's a cheater. He's a this, he's a that. You can't believe nothing he say. You can't believe what he do. Boom, boom. So Melinda's like, no. She signs the papers. They get a divorce. Melinda has to move in with her sisters because she done lost her house. She done lost all her money. She done lost, all she got is her job. So she goes and she lives with her sister. And her sister's up here trying to hook her up with all these guys and stuff. But she's like still in love with her husband. But she don't want to be with him because she know that he took her through so much stuff. So she's at this restaurant with a date. And dude, her husband, well, ex-husband, is in the kitchen. He works the kitchen. So she's like, man, this man got a job. So, she's just staring at him, and she hopes something happened to him and stuff. So long story short, he's living in a shelter. She's living with her sisters. And he lost his phone. So he wound up calling old girl. And he's like, hey, I know y'all probably trying to get in touch with me. I lost my phone. She's like, where you at? What's going on? He's like, me and Melinda got a divorce. I'm staying in a homeless shelter. She's like, I'm on my way. I'm going to come get you. So she goes and get him. She puts him in a tub. He gets a long hot bath. She's like speaking. She's speaking encouraging words into him. And she's like, I believe in you. I know that you're going to get this. Blah, blah, blah. So they're dating. And so they're dating. And she does something. I don't know what she does. So then she comes back and she got a check for $75 million. And she hands it to him. And she's like, look at this. And you keep your copyrights. And he's so happy and he's swinging around. You feel me? So he goes to Melinda's job. He gives Melinda $10 million. He gives Melinda the keys back to her mama's house. And he tells her he loves her and hands her some flowers. She goes to her sister's house. So she puts the check on the table. She's like, look at that. And her sister's like, what is it? And she was like, Robert gave me $10 million. And they was like, oh my gosh, is it real? I can't, what? No, we need to go check this out. Melinda's like, I checked it out. It's real. Oh, and this too. And then she throws down the house keys. And her sister was like, what? Dude was like, man, I knew he was there. I knew, So dude was like, oh, I knew he was smart. I knew dude was gonna do it. So basically, he was all on his side. He was on his side the whole time. So the sister's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. So Melinda was like, believe it, basically, because they talked her into getting a divorce. So Melinda goes to dude's house and dude's apartment that he told her that he was gonna get. He bought that apartment. That same apartment he pointed to her when they was 18 years old. He got that apartment. So this is like 20 years later. So he got that apartment. So she goes in there and she's standing and she's like, oh, baby, I love you. Let's get back together. You got the apartment that you said that, you knew we were going to get together. I cannot believe you made it. Boop, 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 boop. And I always believed in you. And she opens up her little jacket. She got this little lacy outfit on. And he's like, Melinda, I love you. I'm always going to love you. I know, blah, blah, blah. And he's just being like real sweet to her. He ain't trying to embarrass her or nothing. But his fiance comes out the back room. And guess who his fiance is, y'all? The girl who he cheated on her with back in college. So she comes out. She's like, hey, I'm Blase Blase, his fiance. Melinda looks at her hand and she walks away. And she walks out the door. So she looked at the ring on her finger and she was like, that's my ring. That's my house. So why is she stalking them on like social media sites? So she's stalking them on social media sites and whatever. And she's like, that's my life, basically. So Melinda wound up going crazy because she been with him for so long and she invested in him for so long. And then guess what? Dude goes and gives her life to the new chick. Gives Melinda's life to the new chick. So they go to court. And the girl is like, oh, you know, because Melinda wound up burning up old girl's wedding dress. So she goes to court and she's like, oh, it's okay. He's like, I'm so sorry that, you know, she burnt up your wedding dress before your wedding. And she said, it's okay. It was getting too small anyway, being that the little ones went away. So basically she was saying, oh, I'm pregnant too. So Melinda looked at her like, girl, what? So she was upset, honey. Upset. So, he wound up getting a boat and all this stuff. I'm not going to tell y'all how the movie ends because just in case y'all want to see it, go see it. It's a good movie, actually. I like it. But my perspective on the movie, you know, everybody who watched it was asking, oh, whose side are you on? Are you on Melinda's side or are you on Robert's side? I'm on Robert's side. Why? I'm going to tell you why. And a lot of y'all may not like me. A lot of y'all may not like what I got to say. But guess what? I don't care. This is what I'm going to say. I'm on Robert's side because, first of all, when they were younger, he never asked Melinda for anything. He never said, Melinda, can you buy me a car? Melinda, can you pay my tuition? Melinda, can you put your mama's house up? She decided to do all that. She took it upon herself to do all that. Let me let y'all know something. When I was younger, I was in a relationship. I thought I was grown. I was in a relationship with this guy, and he asked me for stuff. Sometimes he never asked me for anything, but I gave it to him because I thought I loved him. I thought I really wanted to be with him for the rest of my life. So I gave him whatever I had. I would work, and I would give him my checks. He used to call me. He called me one time and told me that his son died. And I gave him, you know, I worked like a dog. And I gave him some money. I think I wound up racking up probably almost $1,500. And I gave him all that money for his son's funeral, like to go towards his son's funeral. My brother passed away. And he was saying that his house caught on fire or something, and that he didn't have any clothes. Guess what I did? I packed up all my brother's clothes. My dead deceased brother who died a week prior to dude's house catching on fire. I sent him all my brother's stuff because I felt like dude didn't have no clothes, and my brother had a nice wardrobe. So I was in Melinda. A lot of us did a lot of stuff for a lot of men, and I was in that state that Melinda was in, like, dude, I did all this stuff for you. I gave you all this money. I gave you all my time. I was always there. And then to go on social media, yes, I went on social media, and I seen that he was with this chick that he told me was his best friend. He was with her. Guess who wound up being alive? His son. Guess where they wound up living at? In the house he told me that burned down. So I know where Melinda was at with helping him because I felt like I loved him. And Melinda wanted to support him because she loved him. And then she did all that stuff for him because that was her husband. I understand. I'm a married woman now. I get that. She wanted to support her husband. But where Melinda messed up at is she stopped believing in her husband. She let her cackling sisters get in her head and tell her, how you going to be married to this guy for 18 years and let somebody else tell you about your husband? Dude, I've been living with this man. Let me let y'all know something now. I've been married to my husband for 9 years. Can't nobody outside of my home that I'm in right now tell me nothing about my husband. You can't tell me what he like, what he don't like, who he is, who he's not. I know him on a personal basis. So for her to sit up there and listen to her cackling sisters tell her, oh, he's a liar, he's a cheater, and he's this and he's that, she should have known, like, no, that's not my husband. That's not his MO. Yeah, he cheated on me back in college, but he hasn't cheated on me since. Dude, he was so invested in that battery, he ain't have no time to cheat. But she believed him. That's why she lost her husband. Then, my third reason is why I'm Team Robert, because she wanted the divorce. She wanted that. not him. He kept saying, I love you. And how I knew he really loved her was because whenever she had gave her house up and her brothers came and told him that he had to work for them so that they can give them the money for that house, and he did it and he worked hard. Like, they were saying, you're doing such a good job. You're doing an amazing job working here. And he was doing it for free. Man, that's love. I'm not getting paid to work here, but I'm working here because I messed up my wife's house. I messed it up. So that's how I can tell you loved her. But for me, when I watch movies one or two ways. I watch it with my spiritually, and I watch it in my own, like, going off of my own lifestyle, how I do, and in the relationships I was in. And when I seen this movie, what I seen was, back when her mama died, she was talking about how her daddy was always angry. She was talking about how her mom was so supportive and supported everything that, they did, that her and her sisters did and her dad did. And I seen that. I was like, that's where she got that from. That's where she got that supportive personality from. She got it from her mama. She got it from believing in her husband from her mama. She inherited that from her mama, but she also inherited her dad's anger. And then for Robert has what's it called? The word I was thinking of was arrested development. Robert had arrested development, and meaning he was still like a child because his dad, first of all, his dad was locked up and his mom was on drugs and she left him to live with his grandma. So he had abandonment issues, he had rejection issues, all of that. So how could a man who wasn't raised by a man be a man? He didn't know how to be that protector. He didn't know how to be that provider. He didn't know how to be that man who worked and did whatever he could for his wife. He didn't know how to do that because his dad was in jail. He didn't see no man. He didn't have no man to teach him how to be a man. So when I hear girls talk about this movie, they're like, oh, he should have worked and he should have never took her money and miss me if somebody's not trying to if somebody comes up to you right now and be like, take this $1,000, take this $100,000 and get you a business. Are you not going to take the money? Are you going to say, oh no, it's okay, I don't want it, I'll rather just struggle my way to the top? No, you're going to say thank you. You're going to take that money, you're going to say thank you, and you're going to use it. And that's what he did. He felt like, oh, okay, she's giving me the money because she believes in me. It's not that he took the money because it was, he wanted to go again. He wanted to use her. That's not what it was. And if y'all looking at that movie like that, something's wrong with y'all. If y'all looking at that movie like that man mistreated her, something's wrong with y'all. Have you ever had somebody tell you a one-sided story? That's what she did. She was telling a one-sided story. She had everybody in the movie theater hating Robert. Everybody hated him because they was like, dude, he's a slick talker. He's doing this. He's doing that. He ain't never slick talked her out of nothing. He ain't never say, Melinda, buy me a car. Melinda, do this. Melinda, he ain't never asked her for nothing. She took it upon herself to do it for him. That's why I'm Team Robert. And then when he made that money, guess what he did? He came back, gave her $10 million, gave her more money than she spent on him. Gave it to her, baby. It's yours. Brung her roses, apologized for everything he did to her, gave her back her mother's house. This is yours, baby. Go ahead. I love you. And he left. And she was so mad because she's like, how dare you give this other woman, what you told her. Look, one thing I learned from my pastor is he said a man should make a vision and make it plain and tell his wife, and boom. From the time she met him, he laid his vision out to her. He told her everything he was going to do with that money. He told her everything he was going to give her. And if she would have sat it out 2 more years, guess what? She would have been in that penthouse laughing at her cackling sisters like, ha, 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 look where y'all at, look where I'm at, look at my ring, look at my penthouse, look at my houseboat, look at my husband making money hand over fist. What do you mean? That would have been her. But instead, no, she won't listen to everybody else and let everybody else tell her about her husband. So yes, that girl came in. Yes, that girl believed in him. Yes, that girl spoke life back into him because he was so down and depressed because he was getting a divorce and because he missed his wife. You know, he's getting a divorce. He missed his wife. He didn't. The job didn't go through like he thought it was, and he was homeless. Yes, she spoke so much life into him. She built that man back up from the ground. She built him back up, and guess what? Everything he said he was going to give his wife, he gave to her. Was I mad? No, I wasn't mad. I was mad in my situation, but that's a whole nother different situation. She gave up on him. She let him go. So when somebody else came in, they took him. Oh yeah, he's mine. Okay, yeah, baby, yeah, that battery's gonna work. Whatever. I got you. And people was like, oh, the little side chick had money, and that's why he was all with her because she had money. That's not it. Because Melinda had money too. He was with her because she believed in him. She spoke life into his situation. Saying, oh no, we not about to throw no pity party. Get in there, get that battery together, boom. And that's what it was. So people are not going to like my opinion, but guess what? I don't care. I don't care. I'm a married woman. I believe in my husband now. Let me let y'all know something. When my husband first proposed to me, guess what he gave me? He gave me a ring pop. When he first proposed to me, he gave me a ring pop. Did I laugh at him? No. Because he told me, I'm going to be a welder. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. He told me what he was going to do. And he said, when I get money, I'm going to get you another ring. And I believed him. And guess what? He proposed to me again in front of the church. And guess what? He got me a ring. Did he pay for it? No. My grandma actually had passed it down to him. He paid for it to get sized to my finger. But he didn't pay for the ring. And that's okay because it was, my grandma passed it down to me. So I believed in my husband. And then whenever me and my husband got married, just like, that's what I forgot to tell y'all, Robert had a background. So whenever Robert had graduated from college, he got offered 3 jobs that was making $150,000 a year. And she got mad because he didn't tell her that in his past, he did something when he was 15 years old that caused him to not get the job. He had a felony. Now, me and my husband, when we got married, I knew my husband had felonies. That's why I didn't mind taking care of my husband at the time. I believed in him. I'm like, whatever you got to do. I gave my husband money like for little I&N jobs of, lawn care services. Whatever he wanted to do, I gave him the money to do it because I'm like, he wants to work. He really wants to work. So I gave it to him. And guess what? We married 9 years. Guess what? My husband is a team lead at his job, being a welder, making way more money than a lot of people who doubted him and doubted our marriage and doubted our relationship. But I believed in him. I still believe in him to this day, and he's still telling me stuff that we're going to do and stuff that we're going to get. And guess what? I still believe in my husband today. So I'm going to end this video. I'm going to end this review saying, believe in your man, not just any man. Believe in the man that you're married to. If you've been with that man so long and you know his courts,